So the SAVE Act passed. So now if your name on your ID doesn't match your name on your birth certificate, you got to get a passport to vote.
Republicans are freaking out right now and trying to defeat the SAVE Act after looking in the passport data and seeing that the top states that have the lowest amount of passport ownership are red states, states that overwhelmingly support Trump, and that this act will disproportionately affect negatively their voters. So they're trying to stop this now in the Senate. And here are the states. This is truly unbelievable. These people are something else. Mississippi, West Virginia, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Indiana, and South Dakota. Those are the top states with the least amounts of passport ownership. And much of it is because of the median incomes. They can't afford them, and they don't do a lot of international travel. The coastal states have much more ownership of passports, and those all tend to go more blue typically, but the top states that do have the most passport ownership are California, New York, and New Jersey. And guys, honestly, at this point, if this passes by some miracle, I think it would actually just really help the Democrats. And they're realizing that now and trying to stop their own idiotic bill.
Well. They thought it was strategy, only for it to turn out as self-sabotage. Because tell me how you're going to pass a legislation thinking it's going to weaken your opposition, only for it to mess you up instead. A total miscalculation. Well, that's what happened with the Save American Act. Let us see what the statistics have to say and how it's going for the old man. Because right now, they're fighting so hard to break what they brought upon themselves.
Also depressing, the Save America Act actually seems to disproportionately hurt a lot of red states. So here's just a broad zoom out. When you're going to increase barriers for people to vote in a democracy, you better have a damn good reason to do that. You better be able to illustrate with a very, very compelling case that there is voter fraud you are stopping when you are restricting people's rights. The Republican Party has not illustrated that whatsoever. They have not illustrated that at all. Instead, they are just removing people's rights, making the barriers higher, and making it harder for people to vote. The lowest passport ownership rates, for example, by state are all red states. In order to register to vote under the Save America Act, you need to have some sort of passport or a unique form of voter ID with real ID, and you need a unique combination of documents that makes it just way harder to register. It increases the barriers while not solving a real problem. Are illegal immigrants registering to vote en masse? Is that a real problem that's been illustrated anywhere at all in America? The lowest passport ownership rates by state. West Virginia, 79.3% of people don't have a passport. In Mississippi, 77.9% of people don't have a passport. Alabama, 72.3% of people don't have a passport. If I zoom out here on the right, you can see their choice for president in 2024 was all Trump. We have Kentucky, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Indiana, Ohio, South Dakota. Honestly, personally speaking, I went on a trip overseas with my family when I was a kid, but I have a 5-year expired passport. My passport has been expired, and I've been so busy throughout high school and college and traveling for work that I haven't been able to renew it. I need to go do that soon. But just think about it. I'm a dude who literally runs a business and has the means to go grab a passport, and even I have an expired passport. Imagine a mother of two who desperately wants to vote and partake in democracy but is struggling on a week-to-week basis. This is absolutely disgusting. And here we have Kristi Noem admitting out in public what we all know. Listen, she says, we want to make sure we have the right people voting. By the right people, do you mean anyone who's not a young person, a woman, a minority, a Democrat? Take a listen to this clip right here.
And elections is another one of those critical infrastructure responsibilities that I have as well. And I would say that many people believe that it may be one of the most important things that we need to make sure we trust is reliable, and that when it gets to election day that we've been proactive to make sure that we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country through the days that we have.
What do you mean the right people voting? This is at a time when Donald Trump says he wants to illegally nationalize elections and take over voting in states so they can throw out results they don't like. You know, under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, the SAVE Act would be struck down. It plainly fails this. The state does not have any evidence that our elections are insecure, and this restricts many people. Our law student, Micah Irfan, our policy advisor, who is currently at UVU learning law, he sent me some texts summarizing what one of his professors said. He says the Supreme Court applies a balancing test to stuff like this. How much disenfranchisement does this cause versus how much more secure are our elections? So, for example, if you had some sort of voter ID bill which makes our elections 100% more secure, it removes all voter fraud without disenfranchising a single real voter, someone who actually deserves to be voting, I think every American would be okay with that. But that is not what the SAVE Act is. The legislation unnecessarily stops a lot of people from voting, a lot of minorities from voting, while not actually further saving our elections from illegal immigrants registering. It stops a lot of people from registering, which is sickening. I want to show you this clip of Kristi Noem failing to provide any example of voter fraud. By the way, make sure you drop a like on this video if you appreciate the breaking news. I think it's really important to point out historical examples of Republicans stopping minority groups from voting. So we know this has happened throughout all of American history, but over the past decade, there are multiple really good examples. In 2016, in North Carolina, the Supreme Court found that Republicans were targeting black voters with surgical precision. This is one of the craziest cases. Listen to this. So the Republican Party in North Carolina requested voter data from the state based on race so they could see who voted based on race, where they voted, if they early voted, how they voted, if it was by mail. They had all of this data broken down by race, by age, by gender. They realized that black voters in North Carolina disproportionately voted early. There was a 2-week early voting period. In fact, they realized that black voters used the first week of early voting. So what they did was eliminate that first early week. They then realized that a lot of black voters registered on the same day. So they removed same-day registration. They then increased barriers to register.
The House just passed the Save America Act, which they say requires ID to vote, but it actually requires way more than that. You also have to show proof of citizenship, which might sound fine, but in 45 states, your ID does not include proof of citizenship. So you have to show something else, like a passport. But about half of American citizens don't have a passport. It takes 4 to 6 weeks and $130 to get one. Passport holders tend to have a higher income. Okay, so if you don't have a passport, how about a birth certificate? Well, the name on your ID has to match the name on your birth certificate. And if you're one of 69 million American women who changed your name when you got married, you're out of luck, because a marriage certificate does not count as acceptable proof under the bill.
But what demographic of people have a different name on their ID than their birth certificate? Oh, married women. Only 65 million of those.
The irony of the Republicans trying to push through the SAVE Act is it will actually hurt Republicans more than it will hurt people on the left. The top 10 states that have the lowest amount of the population owning a passport and being under 30% of the people having a passport are all red. Every last one of them is a Republican state. And now we all know the Republicans have made it very clear that it is these good Christian Republican women who are getting married and being obedient to their husbands. So people on the left, these women on the left, are less likely to be married. We all know the left is far more cultured than those on the right, so they actually are more likely to have a passport and travel outside of their hometown. Statistics also show the more educated you are, the more likely you are going to vote Democratic and lean to the left. Statistics also show the more educated you are as a woman, the less likelihood that you will change your last name after being married. So it looks like the Republicans just screwed themselves over yet again.
So it turns out the Republicans who just passed the SAVE Act in the House and now got it up to the Senate went and decided to go look at the statistics. You know, smart people do smart things. Uninformed people do ignorant things. So it turns out that the SAVE Act will actually disproportionately affect the side that wants to win. You know, the GOP. I could have told him that. The majority of the people that I know that travel that have passports are liberals. 100% they're liberals because they're educated and they're working in positions where they're going to travel the world. So as part of their jobs, they have passports, including myself. I've been out of the country over 60 times. So I have a passport. But everybody that I know that wears the little hat, not a single one of them have a passport. I could have told them that. That was going to hurt their side more than ours. So obviously with the ID at the polls, you need a passport to prove, because a lot of times women, we take our husband's names and then our birth certificate doesn't match our ID. And then they started to do all this rhetoric around the real ID not qualifying and that you had to have a passport, which is a poll tax. But now they're starting to realize that the states in which they wanted to make sure they won again, most of the people don't have passports. I'm sorry. It's funny, but I don't know why they didn't see that before, because the average educated person is not a Republican.
So the SAVE Act just passed the House a couple days ago. It's Saturday morning. If it passes the Senate and becomes law, it's going to be amusing this fall watching all the MAGA crash out videos on TikTok. Because in order for them to register to vote, they're going to have an original copy of their birth certificate. They could also use a passport, but none of them have passports. They never leave the county that they were born in. But so it's like they're going to have to ask their mom and dad for an original copy of their birth certificate. And it's going to be at that moment when they get the original copy of their birth certificate that they realize that their mom and dad are also their aunt and their uncle, because looking at the birth certificate, they're going to realize that their mom and dad are brother and sister. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for those MAGA inbreeding crash out disco. It's going to be better than the 23andMe videos that we see, where it's like, Jesus Christ, my dad's the postman. Yeah, they're going to be funny videos.
So the Republicans might get what they asked for if they want to pass that SAVE Act, the act that they want to put out there that says everyone has to be a citizen to vote and they have to have an ID that proves they're a United States citizen. Well, I say go for it, because who's it going to hurt? It's going to hurt red state voters, because, folks, the top 10 states with the least access to papers that would prove they're citizens are red states. They're like Kentucky, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, West Virginia, South Dakota. They're all red states that voted for Donald Trump. 52% of those people have no access to a passport. 11, no access to a birth certificate. And folks, that driver's license you have, that doesn't prove you're a citizen. That real ID does not prove it. So if they want to go ahead and pass it, it does appear that it's going to hurt them a lot worse. And because the people who don't have a passport, they don't travel out of the country anyway. But folks, passports aren't cheap unless they're planning on giving them to everyone. You're talking $200 and some odd the last time I had mine renewed. So the SAVE Act is in the Senate. Let's see now if the Republicans, now that they're finding a little backlash from it.
Well, I mean, clearly they want to actually manipulate the election. They want to scare people away from voting. They want to not just be in charge of who's voting, but they also want to be able to count the votes. And the reason they're doing this is because they know that they are losing in the court of public opinion. See how I did that? And, when that happens, most politicians would be like, well, maybe I should actually move into a better position in terms of the policies I'm doing. They can't do that because they've sold a bill of goods to their base of voters that in order for them to actually get closer to where the median voter is, you'd have to go back to that base voter and really piss them off, right? So what does that look like? Right now, ICE is extremely unpopular. Their actions have not just been, anti-immigrant, they've been anti-American, right?
It's kind of funny how the evil snakes eat their own tails, isn't it? Thank God they're pretty stupid. C'est la vie. I guess they're just going to have to deal with it. I still don't think it's going to pass the Senate, though. I mean, 60% is that's a far stretch. That means some Dems that have to jump over. And any Dems that jump over to pass the Senate, to pass the SAVE Act, need to be removed from office. Remember that, people. Anybody, any Dem or independent or that caucuses with the Dems or what have you that voted for the SAVE Act or votes for the SAVE Act, they need to be freaking voted out. Get rid of them, primary them, get them out immediately.
With all that has been said in the videos, we can clearly conclude that laws don't care who cheered for them. They apply anyway. And that's what we are seeing unfold right now.